Welcome to all of you that came here tonight. First talk I give in English, so I hope it will be decently given. So some content, well, you can see for 5-10 minutes now, the whole path will take today. It should be approximately half an hour, but so-so. So, context of this research, because we'll speak about, as I said, the underground way to do stuff, how we break stuff, how we take one normal behavior or use and we tweak that to turn it into whatever we like. So, why is this research? First, I'm Laluka. I like to break stuff, to find zero there, O days or quirks, like anything that can be played with. Mostly technical, but anything. Next, I joined Mano, which is an e-commerce online shop. And basically, we have 7 tech that do a lot of stuff all day long. And we are between 3 and 6 to try to secure the whole company. So that's a lot to deal with. So we do our best. And what does an e-shop for DIY and I have in common? Hammers. Breaking stuff. Building stuff or breaking stuff. And so this is a cool synergy because there is really a lot to do, a lot of, not that much legacy things, but a lot of developers, tech, new tech, new soft. Okay, so what I will explain how we break today is WebPageTest. And why WebPageTest? Because first, it was something we used at Mano. It was something we used at Mano for performance and profiling. Because of course we have a website. We want to know if it renders well, if it's still up, if everything is going all right. Also availability and end-to-end test, because we want to make sure that every user experience works the way it should, the way it is intended. And of course, at the security team, we use it for breaking stuff. Breaking our own company. So that's not a feature, but kind of. So first thing first, before we try to break something, we do need to have a test setup, because if you are black box, you will find some issues, minor, critical, whatever, but you will never have a good enough impact or good enough vision on what you are trying to break. So the setup. The setup did not went well. I tried to use what they had in their GitHub repository. They had whatever should be needed to build Docker file, images, and the whole infrastructure, but it did not work at the steps. As the steps you can see, here it was 4 out of 26. If it stops at 4, and there are 26 steps, I'm not willing to patch any of them. So I had to find another solution. So just some Googling around, and you find that some guys already developed and published a Docker Compose file. So of course, we'll try to pick this one. And the only tweak I made here is the one you see at the middle, temp, just so I can move files easily, see if everything's going smooth, if there is some file being written to temp, or if I'm able to confirm I have achieved remote code execution by writing a file or anything else. Just conveniently. On the left, what you can see, so the main infrastructure is with one master and agents. So one master that will take the request from the website and dispatch them to multiple agents. That way, if you have like 10,000 scans, if you have 10 machines, they will have 1,000 scans each. Just like scalability, it's required. So on the left, it's the Docker file that has been used. It is mostly just based on their official images, but with some sugar to help having custom configuration, to have something that runs and restarts if it crashes. Not much different, like just make things run and restart if they crash, because God knows they crash. And once we have all that done, that's it. We have our local instance of WebPageTest. So we can slowly begin to play with the browser, with curl, with crawlers, and see how it behaves. Just what are the features? If you want to break something, you have to understand well what it does, what it allows you to do first. So third, like my SSRF, ignite my interest. The thing is that as we have many tools, it's really important to focus on what can be broken. If you try to spend a lot of time on something that is already hardened, then you go Uber and get broken by some other reason. Yes, that was just free, sorry. No, you just have resources that are not used at the right place, and if you harden something that is already mostly secure, you're wasting time. So of course, we just spend some time on various software, and here it is. In just 5 minutes, you just enumerate the files, you send a URL, and you have an SSRF. Okay, so you can force the server to emit requests for you. But in the meantime, that's just the feature of this tool. You have to give it an URL so it can scan it, see how it renders, take screenshots, and inspect its content. So I don't know at this point, but is this a bug or feature? Just raise your hand who thinks it's a bug. No bug? Raise your hand who thinks it's a feature. Liars. Okay, okay, so what we can see from the code. Of course, this software is meant to take screenshots given a URL. But that's not all it does, because there are many input points, and this one, I don't know if you read it well, but was jpeginfo.php. It's not the URL of the website that should be taken here. It's just an URL that points to an image file. So not any URL. If you read the code further on, what you can see is that it will take a URL, and there are various options that are set up. But if you give it some redirection with the location header, it will just follow it right through, even if you change the scheme. And what we can see here is that they tried to allow redirection for websites, but also hardcode the protocol to be HTTP or HTTPS. But if you have HTTP and you can redirect, you don't have any HTTP. You have Gopher. So yeah, it's like totally memory used, but I like it. So yeah, so we just redirect the main request being emitted to Gopher. There is no authentication whatsoever, and so with Gopher, if you're not familiar with that, you can send arbitrary bytes to arbitrary hosts, which is crazy powerful. But it's a one-shot send. Okay, so now some details on other bugs, because if you can send arbitrary bytes to arbitrary hosts, it might not be enough to have a full exploit chain to break everything. So among the other findings, same here, this one was for run test. So this was, I think, the main endpoint that was supposed to take the URL before being scanned. But you can submit requests without any URL. But you can also give it some random parameters. And what you can see, so here the request is on the bottom. And you can see here that one file has been written with the content we control. So basically what this means is that we just give a file to the backend. It will just kindly answer, I will put your file here with the name you like and the content you like. Thanks, backend, thanks. And so yeah, well, as you can see on the left, so there is quite a lot of code to read right now, but it's just taking the vanilla PHP variables post, get, and writing them out, and just not much sanitization in place. Keep in mind here the mkdir and file path contents, because just remember these few lines, or at least the shape of it. One other bug, SSRF and far sync. So far, if you're not familiar with that, is a way for PHP to both unserialize and deploy some content. You can just have, it's kind of like a WAR file for Tomcat. And I hope that helps. If it does not. So it's almost the same code here. Actually, it is the same code because you still can see the mkdir and file path contents. But what you can see right there is that they tried to prepend / in front of everything related to the file system. What this means is that even if you can control some content, you don't control the scheme, because you can't have phar de point de slash. You will have / phar de point de slash, and this isn't really useful. It's actually a quite clever mitigation to prevent SSRF and other weird scheme attacks. But they forgot one. bad luck. So what you can see is that here they try to prepend one other dot slash, but if our payload starts with a slash. So if we send a payload that starts with cuckoo slash dot slash, that's with no dot slash that is prepended, so we can have arbitrary protocol being inserted pretty much anywhere, which is really convenient. So we can just bypass these few checks and sanitization. And what you can also see here is that there is isdir. So basically the developer tries to check if what we submit is a directory. The thing is that life is sometimes hard, because in PHP just checking if something can be a directory is enough to get you pwned. And that's hard, because every function that is related to the file system, when provided some schemes, will try to inspect their contents before doing anything else. So with isdir, if you give var colon slash slash, it will try to open the file to verify if it exists. And when you open that, you have some metadata being unserialized. This might change on versions 8 and higher of PHP, but for now it still works. So one last thing before we, not one last thing. Yeah, this thing. So we have a way to plant a file with the control with controlled content. We have a way to trigger var unserialization. So we have things getting in place, but one thing that I omitted is that the isdir function, without the dot slash being prepended, was one of the only things that was reachable with PHP autoload. There are many classes in PHP, but if you want to unserialize stuff, if the class does not exist in this context yet, it will just crash. But with autoload, if you don't have a class, PHP will just load it for you when you require it. So even if you don't have your keys, just ask PHP and yeah. I lost so much time on this one because I knew I have the autoload PHP built-in there. I knew I could reach this sync, and I knew everything was supposed to work, but I misread and did my research of one of these two. I think it was on AWS. Maybe V3, but the thing is that the V3 version was one with slightly tweaked libraries. So every common gadget was not really working. There were custom classes, some already in place, and so I spent maybe 2 days out of the 3 required for this research to create new gadgets. And when I had the gadget working, I come back and I realized that it was not this specific file that was included. So 2 days completely wasted to create gadgets that do not exist. So that was a bit hard. But anyway, so what this means is that by misreading the code, I wasted 2 days because on the main AWS file, there were vanilla, monologue, composer, and other gadgets that were working out of the box. Just like PHP DDC, generate your payload, run, go. So that hurts. So now one more small shenanigans, something that really hurt me, is that you can see that there are, while calling isdir or any file system related functions, depending on the name of your file, it might or might not work for, I won't say unknown reasons, because it's in the code, it's in PHP core code. But who really wants to read this code? I don't know. So what I try to explain here is that it's either OK or KO, and PHP is OK to unserialize, to open and try to unserialize your file as long as the name looks somehow like foo.bar. But your file cannot end by a dot and cannot be dotless. You really need foo.bar or foo.bar.baz. something. And so as long as you do not have this requirement, you're fucked. But where we are lucky here is that var, it works somehow like the jar file format. And so you can have a var, append a trailing slash, and try and ask to PHP to try to read from the contents of your var file. So cool. What we have here, so by submitting the parameter rkey poet, we have the file poet.created. the directory poet.created and another file within. And so this does not really work because when this whole file is created, when I try to unserialize it, before I can reach the is directory function, a small dot gets added. So you have everything in place, you're supposed to be able to get code execution, but you're stuck because of a small dot that just lays around. And so you just ask for a file that is poet./ and a trailing slash at the end of your file, and when the whole path gets created and concatenated by PHP, well, it will just try to open the inner content that is named dot within your valid file. So you can trick it to still open it. Other people made a lot of work and packaged tools the right way. So first we use PHP GDC and monologue RCE2 to generate the command we want to write. So with the right option, so here the gadget.directory directory gets created. testinfo.ini file gets created with the content we want. So the .ini is actually our far file, and /foo is just to make things happen in a way, so we'll have testinfo.ini /foo dot, and we can just completely get rid of the trailing dot that was blocking the attack. So if you were there at each hack, or if you watched it online, this was one of the many remote code execution presented during 1001 RCE. And so that's the one. It was censored. It's not anymore. It does not have a CVE yet. Will it one day have one? I have no clue whatsoever. And thanks.
Did you request one or?
Nah. When I request, I receive no answer for 2 years. I request again. I'm being told that I'm duplicate of myself, and then someday 2 CVEs pop out and no one tells me. So why bother anymore? Okay. Maybe security is a failure. Maybe. Okay, now we compromised the master, but it's not everything because it's still only one part of the whole story. We want to have like all the pods, all the access. So how to exploit the runner? So one other feature that I quite appreciate is that when you use the web UI, you can ask WebPageTest to spawn a Chromium instance, which is usually up to date, so you can't really use browser exploitation to break into that, but at least I could not. But you can try to send arbitrary flags to the Chrome browser. So I tried to mess around with the flags, but could not really achieve anything pleasing. So that was a dead end at first. But the thing is that once you are in the master, there is no more security boundary. Everything is trusted within the master because you're already in the machine. So when you're there, you can just wait for a new job to be created with the right flags, and it will appear as a JSON file on your file system. And you can just have a while loop that will try to change its content. And so you can see there, it adds command injection within the Chromium browser flags. So you're in the master, you just tweak a bit the content of a file while it's being created. It just goes to the agent, and the agent gets spawned. So we steal a job. One other thing is that when I started this research, I was pretty convinced that it was using Beanstalk for the scheduling, because you can have thousands of scans, even if it's slow, you can. And it's really awful to rely on the file system for scheduling jobs. So they have a daemon, Beanstalk D, that takes care of having many queues, and you can submit jobs, pull jobs, try to pick and poke and trick them. And so I assumed it was using Beanstalk D, and we had already the SSRF with Gopher. So we could communicate with Beanstalk. Well, it was not a default configuration, so I lost also half a day on that one. But as this would have been a really cool exploit chain that I will soonly introduce, I really wanted to make it work, even though it was useless as it's non-default. So still worth having a look. So you can see on the left, it's a bit blurry, but so. It's a plain text protocol. So you can just say, I want to use this pipe, or I want to create a pipe, or I want to pick a job from a pipe, or I want to submit a new job, or ask for statistics. And on the top right, you can see just using echo and sending arbitrary bytes to the socket works. It's just like plain text, like give, take, you're good to go. And so I also found another file write. Let's assume the first one was patch. There is another one. There are others. And so you can plant another file, and here, funny thing again, they take the SHA condensate of the SHA hash of the URL, and they will split the hash every 4 bytes and make subdirectories every 4 bytes. And so you submit the URL, so you know what is its SHA, so you know where it's written. So once again, you can write anything you want at some place you know exists. Cool. So what is the thing we want to do here? We'll first try to write our job. So, and once again, it's a JSON blob. Then we'll trigger the SSRF, redirect to Gopher, so we can send arbitrary bytes. Use Gopher to inject a new job, or let's say read, remove, and reinsert the same job, but with a slightly modified version. Once the job is injected, the job contains the arguments for Chromium. So you can use the same command injection we just saw, and that way, with just one SSRF and the file write, you can force the next job to exploit the agent. And piff paff, let's go. So you just wait somehow, and you got your shell. But can we exploit the agent from the master from the agent? Just find out, do some research. I did not.
It's homework.
Yeah. Now some words about the timeline, because disclosure is hard. So mid-April, I found the first SSRF. So the thing is that I work on a 3/4 basis. 3 weeks work, 1 week off for research and development, helping friends out, drinking too much, that kind of thing. And so I just wait some weeks to have some free time, because it's a new job, you want to like show you're doing the right things. And just a few days, like maybe 3 days and a half was enough to get the remote code execution by wasting 3 of them on the wrong code path. So I don't want to say I'm efficient, just like it's PHP. If you take one project that is not used much, take some time, just try to dig around, you'll get through this. Also, I spent a lot of time to try to fact check everything I was saying, because it's quite easy to say, hey, it's insecure, but if you just assume things works in a way, try to give the issues to the vendor, and the vendor can't do much with that because it's completely unclear why this worked or why this was working at some point. It's just wasting time. Then I tried to reach out to security@catchpointed.com. It was many back and forth, not really helpful at first, but they still took the video, the POC, the details, everything I could, and then nothing. And I wait, and then I try to ask again if everything's doing all right, if they can patch, if they understood or need help, because you will try to be good guys until it gets too time-consuming. Time, otherwise. So then I started writing the articles draft. So just like when this conference is done, maybe tonight or tomorrow, we'll have all the details on thinkloveshare.com with everything if you want to just read calmly with a better, not a better accent, like no accent, it's text. I had no answer, so I just made sure the article was reviewed, that we did not have the software anymore. I also let some time to have a 90 days policy, like kind of same as Google Zero project, Google Project Zero. Still no update, so I told them, hey, I'm planning to publish this article because it's research and it's always cool to share research ideas and projects. And at first they say, like, really early in the process, we have no bug bounty, sorry. And when I told them, hey, I will write an article, look, I will publish that, are you okay with that? They did not answer, we agree or disagree. We said, hey, we have a big bounty program, not bug bounty, big bounty. So within their big bounty program, for 2 or maybe 3 execution, depending on how you account them, and file writes, SSRF and more, well, $300, I mean, that's what it is. But you know, the euro went slightly down, so it was like 250 euros, so not worth it. But it was fun anyway, So I still had no answer. I received the money, so they did their part. I still don't know if it was to kind of push me to, I won't say not publish it, but maybe make the words kinder. But whatever, at least they had some idea on how the process should be, and they tried. That's fine, that's cool. I also sent an email again to say, hey, I'm still willing to help. Are you doing okay with the patch? Do you have plans to make a patch? No news, no news whatsoever. So it's been a bit more than 3 months now. 90 days passed, and I still don't know if it's patched. I did not monitor the Git repo, but it's 90 days, so that's what it is. Last thing before I end my talk, we have issues with trust. Within a company, we always say, hey, trust me, I'm your security guy. We don't want this software, or we want this practice to be used, or we don't not want that kind of practice to be used. And so we really want employees to rely on us for just being part of the security team, and we assume that it's enough. But I'm not sure about that, because if a hacker comes and say, hey, I work remote, I just want you to trust me, and run that command, they kind of are entitled or pushed again to do what they are asked. So we really should try to take a huge care of the words we use, to try to not ask for trust, but really prove that the employee can trust you, but not you, the security team. You, the employees that they already know or already have seen in real life or any Zoom meeting, but not any newcomer saying, hey, I'm part of the security team. So we really should try to work a bit more on that. Also, I really like the backend that trust anything, but that's another story. So thanks for, of course, companies that do help sustain a healthy work-life balance. There are not that many, but there are some. That's the one that allows us to have either part-time work or remote job or anything that we are willing to have a better, more healthy lifestyle. And I don't speak about the drinks we have here tonight, but And of course, companies that helps us with open communication. Like if you are afraid to say, hey, I want to publish that, or that thing happened, things are not the right way. And companies that help and even try to help you go to conferences, to attend to conferences, or to give talks, gems. Once again, thanks for PHP for just being here and being still alive. Thanks to the staff, you rock. Like, really. And the community, because no community means no need for a staff, means no meeting. So thanks all for being here, and have a cool time. Enjoy.
Okay, guys, if you have questions, just can you repeat the questions in order to have on the...
If I do not forget, yeah.
Perfect. Questions?
Yeah.
Can be both on tech side or on the company side, on anything, right?
Are you hiring?
Actually, no. I mean, the company is, the security team, not for now. Slowing down a bit, but in a few months, maybe, for sure. Well, yeah.
Did you research, so you said that the WebPageTest is used in your company?
Was.
Yeah, that was going to be the question. Did the work that you did and the way that they reacted to the disclosure change the practices at your company and made the company stop using WebPageTest?
Okay, so the whole question is that what if do our company change the way we behave towards this software, especially because of this incident? So actually, not really, because we really did not wait for the whole incident and patch and RC to occur, because we are in the cloud. We have cloud services, and like every cloud services, metadata URLs. So just solely one SSRF was enough for us to say, this software should not behave that way. So they should patch. We do not have the time nor resources to monkey patch every software. And so we already had one issue found by Lupin, so a colleague of mine.
On the same tool?
Yeah, on the same tool, but a previous version. But he only used the SSRF version at first. And the thing is that we said, okay, as a company, we try to really push PHP out of our way. It's trying to get legacy deprecated and kicked out. And so we had that was both PHP, already had incident with, still have a lot of issues because like 5-10 minutes was enough to find the SSRF and more. So at this point, we just told to our software engineers, guys, I don't say we must get this one out, but as a security team, we really want it out. Can we make things do? And they said, okay, we already had issues. We have viable alternatives, so for sure, let's get rid of this. So maybe 2 or 3 days later, it was completely gone of our whole company. And we still had some artifacts for some time, just in case of the need of a rollback. But once this was done, whoosh. So it did not have the remote code execution yet before this was gone. Really want it out quick. And that's also why during the first week off, I spent a lot of time trying to have the full proof of concept to say to our engineers, you trusted us, thank you, here's why.
Okay, more questions, guys?
Yep.
Yep.
What kind of remediation propositions did you do? Are they very...
A bit louder, please.
What kind of remediation propositions did you do? Are they very generic or very specific with the functions that you use?
Okay, so what are the remediation we suggested to Catchpoint and not Mano side? Only Catchpoint, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the whole email's content for sure. I think it was something like disable every scheme that you don't really need to use. Try to enforce no user, like the basics, like no user content should be used before sanitization. Nothing should be written with controlled content, even partially controlled, unless it's really required. But if it's required, then you should have tons of features to enforce and make sure things are going well. Also, I'm pretty sure that it's a feature to give a URL and have outcomes. So it's not on their side, it's a tool they provide, but it should be a bit more convenient or maybe more secure by default to have authentication, because you don't want any newcomer to have this software, plug in a URL, and of course this is a tool you have, it's on-premise, so if it is on your cloud environment, so if it's there without any network restrictions, it's already game over, even without issues. So it was kind of a trade-off between features, vulnerabilities, or bugs, and trying to suggest the right things without breaking the whole point of their project. But actually, they are the best recommendation, and I do not want to just troll by saying that will be to get rid of PHP behavior. It's way too flexible. It's way too flexible. You can do anything with it. So of course, we as a attacker can do anything with it. It's the most easy language to manipulate it and make it break itself.
Thank you very much, Laluka.